Hello, legends and super legends. Welcome to Veloharmony's subscriber hangout. We got 60 minutes of hanging out and answering questions and pointing people in the right direction. I want to welcome all the legends and super legends here. I wanted to open with well wishes to Daryl Shanks. Our super legend was hit by a car. Some genius in a car tried to cut between the riders in a group. I'm not sure why. There's just a tendency of some people to just no common sense. And he was injured. His leg was broken and his wrist was broken. And it was a pretty serious injury. His femoral artery was impacted. But the guys in the group acted real smart, so they put a tourniquet on him. So it's been 3 days, and I just got a note from him today. So he's in our prayers. And I do stress safety, but he was safe. He was in a group, and some genius wants to cut between the riders in a group, which makes no sense. We've seen that in our rides. A few videos ago, some of you may have noticed there was a car that went in front of the group to enter a driveway. Then the second car tried to get in between the riders, came up alongside us. You know, they just make a lot of poor decisions, and I'm glad that he was not more seriously hurt. And speedy recovery, Daryl. Just make sure that this person pays for all your expenses and also your pain and suffering. Get a good attorney and give this 20-year-old a quick education into the responsibilities of using a vehicle on the road. That will protect all road users, people who are in other cars, bicycles, skateboards, riding horses, whatever. He needs to get a quick education, and usually it comes by, you know, being made responsible for the damages you've done. So you guys don't let him off the hook. We're going to pray for you. So he really should be not allowed to drive for a while. You know, it's just sad. So I corresponded with Daryl. He didn't want to hog the board with that. You know, he's injured, but he's thinking about us. And so he just sent a reply a couple of hours ago, and he said that the driver was cited and is under further investigation. His driving record's horrible. Yeah. And so, yeah, he shouldn't be allowed to be driving. You know, we're too lax in the U.S. in how we hand out licenses. So, yeah, don't let it stop you. He said it's not going to stop him from doing. Yeah, you got to keep on living, but he needs to pay. If he's not insured, you need to get a good enough attorney that's going to have judgments and liens placed against him, whatever you have to do to make the point. My daughter was hit by some genius who claimed he didn't see her car. How do you not see a whole car? So what chances do we stand? What chance does a pedestrian stand if someone's driving and doesn't see a car? You know, so his company investigated him, and he's probably having all kinds of challenges now because they're having to cover all her expenses. The car has been paid for in full, but we've got to go look for a new car, and she's going through therapy for the injuries and all that stuff. You know, it could have been worse, but those things happen, and people need to be made and held accountable. And that's how you protect the other road users out there, because that's how some people grow up, you know. So you are in our prayers, man. Just heal up quickly, because those are pretty serious injuries. All right, let's see here. Peter Rogala from Crystal Lake, Illinois. Welcome. Ian Hunter. Ian, thank you, man. I just got a note. I got a note from PayPal. You sent some support to the channel. We really appreciate it. It's people like you that make this possible, you know. So I'm continuing to be able to divest more time from other things into what I really love. And I'm hoping to at some point be able to do this full time. That's my long-term goal. And people like you and Robert and Daryl Shanks are making it look like it's very, very feasible. Oh, Daryl's on here. Okay, good. Welcome, man. Heal up, man. Heal up. That's just sad to hear, but it is in the back of all our minds, and that's why we do our best to just be safe. That's all you can do, even in a car. And the funny thing is, I feel safer on my bike than in my car. In this city of Houston, we have a high percentage of reckless drivers, not towards cyclists, just on the freeways and stuff, like you going to work or whatever. They just take a lot of chances. We have a lot of fender benders in the metro area. So I don't feel any safer in my car than I do on my bike. I actually feel safer on my bike because of where we go, because it's less populated. But anytime I have to go into the city, yeah, I just drive. So yeah, so just wanted you to know that I'm always, whatever vehicle I'm traveling in, whether it's my bicycle, my car, I'm always very leery and just all ears and eyes and whatever. So heal up quickly, man. We'll keep you in our prayers. Yeah. It's always terrible to hear when a cyclist is impacted, especially when it's not their own doing. I mean, not that it's ever a good time to be hit by a car. It's terrible. So yeah, it weighs on us heavily, but it's good to know that you're still there. So let's see. Mark, welcome. Mark Hines, Noah, Sancho. Yeah, we're gonna keep Daryl in our prayers so he can heal quickly. The good thing is cycling is a good sport for recovery. They actually use, you guys know, stationary bikes in physical therapy institutions because the motion, there's no impact. They use that. Like when people get knee replacements or hip replacements, they want to get them moving quickly. And so, that's what they do. C. Krula, welcome. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate that. Yeah, but yeah, Daryl, just heal up quickly, man. Todd Morrell, another one of our supporters from New York City, the city that never sleeps. Yeah, when I heard about it, I was like, I read the email a couple of times, and I was like, man, it just always sucks, So when I'm riding, I watch for everything. I try to anticipate. I ride, what you said, defensively, offensively, whatever I need to do. And for the most part, most drivers are very reasonable. This sounds like just a reckless person and needs to be held accountable for injuring other people. Michael Fernandez from the land down under. Good morning, Michael. Alan Hines, New York City. The New Yorkers are here this evening. Yeah. Welcome, guys. I did a spin earlier today. Our weather is warmer than normal, probably about 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer, which equates to about 3C. Azir Khalid, jumping on the super chat train. Welcome, Azir. The man with the cool name. Alan Hines, New York City. Yeah, so we're above normal, and then we're going to get a front later in the week. It's sunny, and it's like 90 Fahrenheit, but it feels like maybe 80 Fahrenheit. So for you Celsius people, that's about 30 Celsius feeling like 28 or 25 Celsius. So it's a cool 90. And so I wore this, this is a midweek jersey, and that was perfect with no hat, just my helmet. So it's, this weather you got to be careful dressing for because you get out there. I hate to be too cool on the ride. And you definitely don't want to overheat, but this jersey was perfect. So the midweek jersey you can kind of wear into the temperature about 90, let's say from cool temperatures, you can wear a base layer, but up to about 85, 90 Fahrenheit, then you want to start going to the lightweight stuff. Makes a big difference. CQ, sorry, trying to figure out a super chat. You're not the first. What's his name? Psycho Warrior. His name is Mark, actually, but he goes by Psycho Warrior. What you need to do, CQ, is there is a bar that you drag that gives you the amount. Because anything you type is your message. But if you're on a mobile device, there was a bar that you drag, and then you will see the amount, and then you can type whatever, and it would jump you up there. So when you type in, you just want to put your comments or your questions in there, and then drag that bar for the amount that you want to do. And the color will change. Your super chat color will change based on what you send the channel. That's all. It's not too hard. It just depends on whether you've done it before or not. It took me a while to figure it out. Cycle Warrior had a problem with it one time, and I contacted YouTube, and they told me about it. They need to make it more intuitive. Welcome, Jeffrey. Welcome, Jeffrey. You just came on here. I just wanted you to know one of our other super legends, Daryl Shanks, was hit by a car. I think he said it was Sunday. So he's been in the hospital for a few days, and he's recovering, but it was a serious accident because his artery in his leg was impacted. His leg was broken. Thankfully, the guys on the team were smart enough, quick enough, and they kind of tied his leg so he didn't lose a lot of blood. And he broke his wrist also. He was hit, and his face hit the windshield of the car. This car was cutting between a group of cyclists in a pace line. Yeah, go figure. Turns out the driver has a bad driving history and all that kind of stuff. So they're investigating. But what I did say was that Daryl needs to make sure he probably already get a good attorney that will make sure either the insurance the guy is linked to or whatever, somehow that he's made financially responsible. Because that's what stupid people pay attention to. Because people who are smart, they get to keep their money. People who are not, it gets taken away from them. And you need to make sure you do that so that he can be kept off the roads, either by not being able to afford insurance or whatever, and so it can protect all the other people riding horses, bikes, the other drivers, whatever. Because it wasn't a cyclist thing. It was like, this is just a reckless driver that needs to be kept off the road. Hopefully the authorities would do something too, since they're investigating him, because those are the outliers that just make things seem really unsafe. There's nothing wrong with the roads. It's the way people use them that make the roads hazardous. So it just cuts close to home. It always bugs me. I take it personally when it's unnecessary. There was no reason for him to want to cut through cyclists. I don't understand why people feel like when they leave home to go somewhere, they're not supposed to wait for anything. It's almost like they get a pass because you're going somewhere that no one else is supposed to be out there using the roads. I don't understand that mentality. So but I'm just glad that it was not too grave, but it was a serious injury. Our Blythe said, hello from England and Newcastle. Welcome. All you can do is ride safely. Don't let that impact your life. You got to keep living. Don't let it stop you from living. That's what Daryl made that very clear. You have to live, but all you can do is try to coexist and just do things safely, whether you're in your car, your bike, whatever. That's all you can do. You can't control what other people do, but you can try to stay out of harm's way as much as possible. And then sometimes, things happen, and that's the reason we try to put some lights on our bikes, or we wear a helmet, or we put on some gloves or whatever. You never know. You do the best you can. Jeffrey, thank you, my brother. Jeffrey is already a super legend, and he's doing a chat here. Super chat. Thanks, Jeffrey. We appreciate that. But yeah, so when I got the message, Daryl, this morning, I read it, and it was before my ride, and it hit close to home because I've known a lot of people that have been injured, and we've known people that have been killed riding a bike. It doesn't happen that often. I think it's a combination of the fact that we're a small percentage of the road users, but when it does, it always hits close to home. Even when car accidents happen with other cars, So yeah, you keep moving on, but he needs to be held accountable so he can grow up. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, Michael, next week we'll have a drawing for the goodies. Had some technical issues with the program. So next week we'll do the drawing for the patron of the month. Let's see who we have here. Vadim. When person with money meets person with experience leaves with money, and person with money leaves with experience. Well said. I was told as a kid that a fool and his money should never have met in the first place. Yeah, that's true. I mean, The bottom line is he needs to be held accountable. Whether you have money, you don't have money. If you injure someone, that's one thing about the U.S. You injure someone, you need to be held accountable for what they're going to go through. That besides the medical bills and all of that, that's pain and suffering and all the crap you got to deal with because this idiot wouldn't follow the rules of the road. So yeah, that's my issue. I believe that he should be held accountable. Don't let him off the hook. Let the jurisprudence side continue, but on the civil side, he needs to be accountable and needs to take care of all the expenses you incur. Also, they call it PIP, personal injury. So yeah. So the first thing we did when my daughter was hit was contact an attorney to take care of that, and they're off doing the jurisprudence on that. We don't have to deal with that because that has kept that guy off the road because his company didn't put him in another vehicle because they couldn't figure out why on a sunny day, lunchtime, you run into the back of a car. What is the deal? What were you doing? And good luck trying to come up with an explanation. I didn't see the car. Well, too bad. If you can't see, you shouldn't be driving. And my issue was like, if you don't see a whole car, man, pedestrians, dogs, whatever, they don't stand a chance. You don't need to be driving. So yeah. Let's see here. Paul Ilunga. Let's see. Jeffrey Day will lose one yearly in my area, always near the bike trail. I mean, it's unfortunate, but people want to do other things when they're operating a vehicle. If you look at like on the commercial vehicles, like for example, airplanes. I used to travel a lot for business. Thank you, Vadim. Thank you so much. I used to travel for business consulting. One thing I respected was that the pilots, all they did was fly the plane. They focused. That's all they were doing. I mean, think about the average person driving a car. They're juggling other things. That's why. And because they're not killing 100 people in a car accident, it doesn't make the news. But when a plane goes down, then all of a sudden it's a big deal. But the planes don't go down that frequently. It's just that when they go down, there's a lot of people on board. And so commercial drivers are held to a higher standard, whether they're the airplane people, the truck drivers. One thing I've noticed, they're serious about it. They take it more seriously, just generally. And that's good because they're on the road a lot. Sometimes I think some of them, there are a certain number of hours they're allowed to drive. Some of them even sleep in their cabs, the ones that do long hauls and so forth. So it's a big deal, and they should be. But just the everyday driver is too lackadaisical about, the dangers of driving. This is a 3,000, 4,000 pound vehicle moving at speed. And, you can do some damage. So yeah, so people just need to be more patient sometimes. They act like they're not supposed to wait for anything. We get that a lot around here. They're just spoiled, in my opinion. You can't leave home to go from point A to point B and expect nothing to be in your path. And then sometimes they get upset when it's an official, let's say, detour or something because they want to fix the road or whatever. They're upset. You're upset because they close a lane to fix the road for you. They're just a different kind of mindset. They act like they're not supposed to be inconvenienced. So they'll have to get an education, like Vadim said. From Portsmouth, UK. Well, you're welcome, Vadim. Vadim says he loves the channel. It's very motivating. Yeah, you're welcome, man. It's good that I motivate people because I feed off of you guys too. You guys motivate me to keep riding, so I can hang in there to get the films for you when I ride with those, the former pros and some of the Cat 2 guys that we're going to be riding with. I've got to keep myself in shape to be able to go there. I can't tell people to train and I don't train. I've said that before. So I've got to lead by example. So the motivation is mutual. So Darryl says, how does everyone feel about having a SAG vehicle follow-on ride? Some are using one in my area. If you have somebody who's available, that's fine. I don't think it makes you any safer necessarily. It's a good, it's nice to have. But yeah, having a vehicle behind you, we've had those sometimes. A lot of times the big races, you have them. But yeah. If you can get somebody to do that, that's fine. Just something the person has to know about cycling. John Hill, there you are. He said, when does base training when doing base training, should I focus on heart rate or effort? Not just base training, John. You should always focus on effort. The reason being is halfway. I mean, when you're working, for example, the heart has a big lag. The legs do the work. Then the heart says, okay, I've got to do this to remove lactate or bring stuff. So the heart has a lag, and the heart rate does not always represent the effort you put out. That's why the prevalence of pyrometers are really a big deal, because it's very accurate and it's objective. Whatever watts you're putting out is what you're putting out, you know. So effort is more important. When I train, I use a heart rate monitor, but my heart rate might say 140, and my legs are actually working at 170, but the heart rate has not had enough time to display 170. I hope that makes sense to you, John. So you got to go. If you want to go full gas, you got to know I'm going as fast as I can right now. That's full gas. Doesn't matter what the heart rate says. The heart rate will take a while to get up there, and it will rarely display maximum heart rate. That's why a lot of times we don't train by maximum heart rate. We train by threshold. Heart rate is most effective when you're doing steady state stuff. You're going to be there for minutes on end, you know, 5-7 minutes or more. Heart rate's effective. 2 to 3 minutes, heart rate doesn't have time to represent what's going on. So pay attention to your effort. Use the perceived exertion of I'm going 5 out of 5, or I'm going 50%. I'm going halfway, 2.5, or I'm going 3 out of 5. Use that. That's better. You know, you get to where if you're having trouble, like your legs tingle at a certain point where they feel like they're about to go rubbery, you know you're at threshold. You can feel that in your legs. Don't worry about what the heart rate says. It will take it a while to get there, and you'd have to keep that effort going. So don't depend on heart rate. I use heart rate primarily to make sure that I've recovered, because like in the morning, I'll use it to check my pulse to see that I've recovered from the other workout and so forth. It's a nice indicator, but it's not the only thing, and you don't want to depend on it 100%. I hope this helps you. So let me go back to Daryl. Well, I was talking about Daryl. About the SAG. The SAG vehicle is okay. You don't need to change what you're doing. The problem with SAG vehicle is they block the road. You know, we're already out there riding, and then you got a vehicle traveling at 20 miles an hour. It makes it harder for the other drivers to come around you guys, especially on narrow roads. That's the thing. So the person needs to know how to drive that SAG vehicle. A lot of times, people in the know when they're driving a SAG vehicle, they leave a bit of room by moving over on very narrow roads so cars can go around you guys easier, meaning they try to take up the same space the group is taking up instead of taking up the whole lane all the time. And then when it's unsafe for people to pass, then they can take up the whole lane. So that person driving the vehicle should be a cyclist or should know about cycling so that you guys are not just out there impeding traffic with the SAG vehicle. That's my only reservation about that. Okay. Yeah, Noah says that a recent study showed that some drivers see cyclists as less than human. 49% of non-cyclists viewed people who ride a bike as non-human. I don't understand where that mindset comes from. You know, that's like saying, okay, let's just say it's not cyclists. Well, how do they view people that ride motorcycles? Because when I'm driving my car, I steer clear of anybody on 2 wheels. I don't want to be anywhere near that person, especially here in Texas, where it's not a law to wear a helmet. I see adults on motorcycles at speed. I'm talking 65 and up miles per hour with nothing on their head. You think about it. We fall at 20 miles an hour. You can hurt your head. What will happen at 60 or even 40? But because it's not a law, they're out there. I've seen a guy on a motorcycle with his helmet hanging on the side of the motorcycle, and you've probably seen them, where the passenger of the motorcycle is wearing a helmet. Usually it's a lady, and the guy has no helmet. If you fall, your head's going to hit the ground at 40 miles an hour or 50 or 60. What Yeah, so I don't, but it's not a law. I mean, if you're over 18 on a motorcycle, you don't have to. Wearing a helmet in Texas is not a law on the bicycle either. I don't need a law to tell me what makes sense. You know, the reason they did that is people fought against it. I think if you're under 18, you have to wear a helmet on the public roads on a bicycle. But if you're over 18, you don't have to, you know. But all the events we participate in require you to wear a helmet because it just makes sense, you know. And so that's the way it is. But yeah, to view people that are, wow, you have to be driving a car to be a human? Please. As much as those things pollute, they need to find better ways to fuel the cars so we can have less pollution. That's what they need to start thinking about. So all the, yeah, I don't understand that mindset. Yeah, Daryl, everybody's fine. This was a while back. Let's see here. Yeah, John, I want to talk more about this heart rate thing because I like heart rate for several reasons. It's inexpensive. Okay, those belts are like maybe $20, $30. They're inexpensive. And it's been around for a while. I raced with heart rate monitors. And then most of the head units you just buy the belt and you'll compare it. So it's easy for everybody to get. And it's a training tool. But any tool you get, even if you get a power meter, don't depend on it too much because you're, like John is saying, should I focus on effort? You've got to put the effort in before these tools can respond, meaning the power meter just says you're doing 300 watts. You have to do 300 watts before it can say you're doing 300 watts. So what matters is you have to ask yourself, do I feel like doing 300 watts? Now, I'm simplifying things, but what it means is, based on what's been going on in my life, I've been working all these hours, or I didn't sleep well, or whatever. Do I want to do 200 watts on this ride? That's where we talk about structure. And that's what I talked about the last time, where I don't tell people what to do. I give them a plan, but then I allow them to learn how to massage the training plan so they can basically become their own coach eventually. And the point I'm trying to get to is this. Even if you plan to ride hard that day, and let's say you're going by yourself and you got your power meter, you got your heart rate monitor, and you go out there and you start to go and your body just feels like crap, that's number one. That rules out everything else. And I've mentioned where I said, if you're riding and you're trying to do 200 watts, and today that 200 watts feel like, man, it's taking everything I've got to do 200 watts. When you know it shouldn't, that's your cue that says, this is not the day to do that workout. You're below, below par. You're tired. Your body's not 100%. So the effort is the first thing you pay attention to. Do I feel like I'm dying trying to do this? And should I be feeling like that? You know, when you're going full gas, yeah, you should be giving everything. But there are certain workouts where okay, I'm just doing, say, sweet spot or zone 3 or whatever, or top of zone 2, and you shouldn't be dying. So when you're doing a moderate effort and it just feels like it's heavy, you back off. You keep riding, but you back off and drop the intensity. That's the body way of saying, I'm not 100% from whatever else you've been involved in, not just cycling, just life in general. You may not have rested enough. You may not have recovered well from the last ride you did. Maybe you didn't eat enough. Maybe you didn't eat often enough. You didn't eat the right foods, whatever. You know what's going on. You evaluate. That's why training is fun. And that's why I said we train, we don't ride. Because you have to always pay attention to what's worked for you in the past and try to stay there. You're not going to find too many experienced riders trying new things around big events. That's not when you do that. Because they know what works for them, the kind of foods, whatever, and they stay with that. That's the key. So it's very important that you don't rely on the gadgets. The gadgets don't mean anything. The gadgets give you feedback about what you have done or what you put out. As instantaneous as the power meter is, you still have to put out the watts for it to display it. So if you're tired, you're tired. It doesn't matter what the meter is saying. And then you must use that meter to keep you under where you need to be, meaning that the value of the tool is that, okay, I'm tired, so today I'm not going over 150 watts, whatever your ranges are. Or today I'm not going to go over 140 beats per minute if you're training with heart rate. So you have to have days in the week where you go hard, and days in the week where you go easier, days in the week where you go long and steady. The body thrives on that, because when you go full gas or you're doing sprints or fast intervals, that's very hard on the body. So you don't want to do that all the time. So let's say you do that one day, and then the next day, mix it up. Back off. Just like when you go to the gym. Those of you who work out in the gym, you can't do upper body work every day. The quality won't be there. So a lot of lifters will stagger it. They'll do upper body Monday, then they do it on Wednesday. Then they do leg Tuesday, Thursday, something like that. It's similar to cycling. So you can ride every day in cycling, but you're not going to be doing the same workout every day. You know, like today I just did what I call threshold. Well, my heart rate only got up to like 147 beats per minute, maybe 150. That's what I saw. But I knew that I was at threshold because my legs were tingling when I was doing it. And I just kept pushing. Because there are times when your heart rate may not peak within the time you're doing the effort. There are many factors that affect your heart rate. If you're a little tired, it will be hard to drive your heart rate up. And then if your legs are tired, you can't really drive anyway. And then you got to watch your gearing and all that. So you can't just focus on heart rate display, because that's a different part of the engine. That's your internals. It does not represent what your legs are doing. So you need to listen to your legs. That's the first thing. That's very paramount. I wanted to spend a little extra time on that because I know a lot of people ride and a lot of people are using different things, whether it's heart rate monitor or power meter. But it's very important that you start with feel. That's number one. I don't care what gadget you're training with. You're feeling good, that's the day to push. Let it all hang out. You're not feeling great, that's the day to either not ride, or when you ride, back off. Lower the effort. You will have more fun during it. All right, let's see here. Noah says, I use heart rate, but it's more of an after the ride review to see how high my heart rate got doing, or just in general. Some of the best advice I was not watching metric. I just ride and analyze later. Yeah, that's what the pros do. Think about it. Nobody's got time in a race to look at heart rate. You know, those guys are going, it's windy and there's an echelon forming. Who cares what your heart rate is? You better get a position in there or you're going to get gapped. Then you got to get in echelon number 2, especially with the spring classes. I've been watching some of them on Eurosport. So it's important to pay attention to what's happening in the ride, even if you're not racing. You go to the group ride, pay attention. Watch that wheel in front of you. You know, make sure you don't overlap. If the wind's coming from this side, make sure you place yourself where you can save energy until you get to the front to take your pull. That's what you should be paying attention to. When you get home, you can download your data and spend the afternoon looking at it. Put your feet up, recover while you're watching it. Don't pay attention to it during the ride. You can glance periodically if you want to see, man, my breathing has changed. What heart rate is that happening at? You can do that. That's fine. That's a glance, and then you got to do what you got to do. If you want to keep riding, you keep riding, or you want to let them go. But then you'll learn from that. It's okay, I'm having problems at this effort. But then you also got to pay attention to how your legs were feeling. Because when you solo, you may not be able to get your heart rate at that level before the legs start feeling like that. So it's more important to pay attention to how your legs are feeling, because you can get that same feeling just from getting in the right gear, in the right conditions, and replicate that effort. That's what's more important. I find that I rarely get my heart rate very high up solo. But when I'm in the group or in an event, then I can drive it up. Because solo, I just focus on my legs. If your legs can turn the gear, doesn't matter what your heart rate is doing. Because it's the gear and the conditions that give you the speed. The gear and the cadence. That's what gives you the speed you put out. That's very important. Okay, let's see here. So Daryl says, my helmet saved my head. A majority of my face, bruises on my forehead and my lip have all in a chain, have a lil and a chain or something like that. Humor is my recovery. Yeah, you know, it's funny. Let's see, what was this? 1992, I'm guessing, something like that. I was in a ride on the west side, well, I guess it's southeast side, Clear Lake City, Houston area, were riding after work, fast group, and a guy fell in front of me and his head hit the curb. He had on a helmet. I just saw that the helmet split. Piece of it went on another one way, and hair going with the helmet. And you could just see the red patch as the blood started to. He didn't bleed profusely, but it just kind of gathered. But that helmet saved his life because the helmet took the brunt of it, and he didn't even bleed to where the blood came out. It just kind of gathered in the area that the hair used to be in. And like 2 days later, we saw him on his bike spinning around, and he had a new helmet on. He was like, I'm sold. Because, you know, in the 90s or whatever, it wasn't so cool to wear a helmet. They weren't that fancy yet or whatever. I'm one of the people that used seatbelts in cars before it was a law. They were there. It just made sense. And I noticed that the people on NASCAR and all these guys, I don't care how far back you go, all the racers, you guys that are in Europe, all those racers would wear those, the harnesses where it would come across, like they call them 5-point. That's a reason. It just made sense. You keep yourself belted in. You know, airplanes always have those straps or whatever, but it just made sense. And then I don't know when they made it a law here. I already was wearing seatbelts, so it wasn't a big deal for me, but people fussed about it or whatever. I was like, why wouldn't you want to? But no, the helmets work. And right now, it's not a law. I see adults on bicycles without helmets, decked out like we are, some of them, got a bandana on, looking really cool. I'm like, you know, I hope you never fall. Because most times, even you see football players wear helmets for multiple reasons. You know, they're tackling each other. It protects the head. But a lot of times when they tackle someone and that person hits the ground, there's a whiplash motion. The head always does that. And so when you fall off a bicycle or you fall off of anything, the chance of your head hitting something is very high. What are you doing? Rollerblades, whatever you're doing, you know, so why not? Why not protect your head? I mean, what's the big deal? I don't understand that. So yeah, it's just a good idea. I'm sure there's a reason why they don't make it a law, but it's a law to wear a seatbelt. That's the part I don't get. You're sitting in this iron shell, and they make it a law for you to wear a seatbelt. You're on a vulnerable vehicle like a bicycle, but it's not a law to cover your head. And the same thing with a motorcycle that can do speeds that cars can do or more, the way that some of these guys ride out here like they're racing, and they're not required to wear a helmet. I do notice that the real enthusiasts for the motorcycles, the one that ride those fast-looking ones where they tuck in, I have not seen any of them without a helmet. You know, we go out to Richards and stuff, and we see them out there to go out on the weekends. It's a lot of the guys that are riding the cruisers, you know, like the Harley Davidson sometimes. And it's not all of them, but I'm just saying some of them don't even wear protective clothing. The serious cyclists, motorcyclists, they wear like leather because they know when you fall, that will protect you. And they definitely wear helmets. So, you know, everything has that. I guess cycling has it, motorcyclists, and then the drivers, even now that is illegal to not wear a seatbelt. There are drivers that don't wear seatbelts. They'll literally clip them in and sit on with them behind them because the car's warning system goes off. So go figure. You know, you can't do anything about that. Just do the best you can and protect yourself. You know, but I feel naked without a helmet on my head. I've just always worn it from the time I got into cycling seriously. You know, as a kid, I didn't wear it. You know, they weren't prevalent. Let's see here. All right. Jeffrey says, like instant hatred. I was like that at one point. The attitude is we're defiling their road. Well, they're ignorant, Jeffrey. It's not their road. The road is for all of us. It's a public road. So they just need to they need to get over it. They get a real quick education when they mess up. I have seen them in court. They have a very humbling attitude when they get their butts hauled in court because a lot of them are clueless and they're ignorant. The average person does not apply the high percentage of their brain. They have no idea what the rules are, but then they want to act like they know. They're not even smart enough to go educate themselves, you know, but want to act like they own something. Territorial about what? You know, you're gonna take that road with you where? It's a road. That's all it is. So yeah, don't worry about those fools. They're clueless. There is, I don't know who told me about it. I think it may have been Paulie Longa. There were some kids in my neighborhood riding two abreast, and some lady followed them and then called the officers. And the officers called the officers because the kids were riding two abreast, and the officers told her they have the right to do that. You know, I think it was Paul that told me. Somebody told me recently, within the last month. You know, the kids are riding a bicycle two abreast, even if they weren't allowed to do that. Why don't you get a life and move on with your business? You know, you couldn't use the next lane and pass them. No, call the officer. The officer came and told her they have the right to do that. If I were the officer, I would have said, you have the right to not waste our time. Oh, man. All right. Hey, Anthony Tomasello. Hello. Anthony's coming in on Friday for a bike fit at 11 a.m. from Austin. I've gotten so many people from other cities and other states coming in to get fit. And it's really cool. And Anthony he's going to be riding with us on Saturday. He's going to go to the ride with the WCC. So we'll get, I'm getting the camera ready so we can put him on film in the parking lot and so forth, introduce him to the channel. And we may film some of his fit. We'll see. But yeah, welcome, Anthony. Dwayne Randolph from Ontario, California. Welcome. Gilles Payne. I remember that name, Gilles Payne. I saw that on the channel. I like the guys like Gilles Payne who's got the same name in different forums, different things. Because what's in the Psycho Warrior X, he's got different names in different places. And then the guy down under, Joaquin, Michael Hernandez. It's easier to tag the people that have the same name. Yeah, Gilles Payne. Welcome to the live chat. Robert said, I confess to not wearing a helmet. Robert, you're on a trike. You ride a trike. Yeah, I saw a guy today on a trike, Robert. I was going out on Creekside, and his was a little fancier than yours. His feet seemed to be way up in the air. You know, two wheels back, one in the front, and he was just like almost like a reclining position, kind of. You know, not quite like yours, but he had a helmet on. So yeah, But he also had a bunch of lights on the back, you know, that because it kind of is a low profile thing. So he had lights flashing, so he seemed pretty visible. That's the only thing I would be concerned about with a trike. I want to make sure those suckers can see me. So I'd probably put like 2 lights to define the width of my trike. But I would definitely wear a helmet, Robert. You never know. Some of these guys. The biggest thing is it's not just the helmet. Is not about cars. I had my worst injuries when I used to race, riding solo, you know, clipping some kind of pothole or some crack and just falling. It's not cars that you wear a helmet for. It's just to protect your head when you fall in any eventuality. And a lot of the falls don't involve cars. You know, those dogs, you know, and there's all the other dogs like potholes and debris. Just one moment of inattention. It doesn't take much. So yeah, so don't think it's just for cars. Just cover your head because you're moving at speed. You're going downhill, whatever. Just cover your head to protect it if you fall. That's why I made the thing about the football players, because a lot of those guys get dislocated shoulder just in a tackle. They're just hitting the ground so hard. That's the same thing happens to us. And then sometimes you stick your hand out and then your clavicle will break. That's the same stuff. Just it's that the body's in motion. You know, even though you're only doing 20 miles an hour, but your body was not made to smash into the ground at that speed. Mark Haynes, he said, hi, Eldred, have you had a chance to coach a cyclist whose occupation are airline pilot? No, I haven't. I'm not sure why you're asking that. I know pilots act like they know everything. Maybe that's what you're implying. So it'd probably be a challenge, right? I think pilots and engineers act like they know everything. Anthony Tomasello, it's amazing, though, how resilient cyclists can be because we're fit. you recover really quickly because you're fit. Being fit, the body can deal with stuff and bounce back. Yeah. Yeah, they get back on the bike because you love it. You know, nothing's going to stop you from living your life because you have an injury, but we recover when you're, and the doctors will tell you, when you're generally healthy, yes, you can be very resilient because the body can probably, in fact, the activity of just getting on a trainer, that's the reason I mentioned earlier when people have hip replacement or hip surgery or knee surgery, within a day, the doctors want them walking. They want them moving. They don't want things to draw up. And, you know, and most of the machines they use for therapy involve stationary ergometers and different things. So that motion is very good for the body. And I think sometimes they can do things in the pool and so forth. So just being mobile is good for the body. I made a video about how bicycles change you. If you, some of you may know of or have known of people who were bedridden. Just being bedridden is actually bad for you because you get bed sores. The body was not meant to just be there lying around. It's not good for you. And so as you get more inactive, there are certain diseases you get from that inactivity that you would not encounter if you stay active. So in societies where people stay active, they're healthier. You know, there are certain places in the world, if you go there overweight, they want to move in with you to find out how did you gain that weight because they want some of that. Because where they are, it's not easy to gain weight. You know, whereas our society here, we sit around. So yeah, you know, being fit is really the number one thing. And that's why I keep trying to stress that your health should be on top of everything. Job should be down below family and all that stuff. You know, don't make it number one. But we have a tendency to, you know, drop everything. Oh, we got to be at work. Well, it shouldn't be that way. Don't neglect your health because if you're not healthy, they won't be interested in you at work. They want a healthy person at work. You know, you go there. If you go and look for a job and you're coughing and wheezing, chances are you're not going to get the job. But when you come in there full of energy, you know, they're more apt to give you the job. Although there are places that can drain that energy once you get in there. And that's why you got to watch for it and not let that happen. It's tough, you know. So Jeffrey Davis, super legend, says, do you have advice for blowing up on hills? Don't. I got you. He says, I'm not sure if it's mental or physical. He says, I've shifted before and my cardio is good. The roads around me are dotted with 7 to 9% climbs. Okay. 7 to 9%. So I would say you need to have the right ratio on your bike. Let's say, like I have on the orange bike, I intentionally put it 36.52. I used to have a 39.53. Now they have a compact combination 34.50. Paul has them on a couple of his bikes, if not all of them. You need to have the right ratio. In the back, I've got as small as a 28. I'm saying small, but physically it's a bigger cog, but ratio-wise it's small, gear inches. So 28 is what I have. Some people have a 30 or whatever. The reason is that as the climb gets steeper, you see a lot of people come to the channel and they'll say, like the last time at the premiere, I think it was somebody said, oh, we got real tough climbs in the UK. There's a guy named Tony Martin. He's a professional. You guys know him. I don't know which team he's with now. He used to race with Quick Step. He's changed teams over the year, but he's like the world time trial champion a couple of times over or whatever. Great time trialist. And one time he was annoyed because he was at a race where they made the course so tough. And what he said was, why would anybody want to see a professional racer ride at 10 kilometers an hour? He was upset with the course because, of course, it didn't suit his body type. You know, he's a Sagan type, strong rider, big rider, you know, relatively compared to cyclists. But his issue was, I don't want to go 10 kilometers an hour. The point is that he was putting out watts, but doing 10 kilometers an hour. Yeah, on a tough hill. Maybe it was 15%. Who knows? You can't ride those things. So you got 7 to 9, fairly reasonable. So you need to be at least in a 34 inner chain ring and maybe a 25 in the back. I don't know your fitness level you're on, but I'm just giving you an idea. You're not going to be setting speed records, but you're going to be setting effort records. So you got to watch what effort you're putting out. You're blowing because you're going too hard because you want to go fast. You can't go fast on those high grades. So you have to focus on your effort that John Hill asked about earlier, meaning that, am I going 5 out of 5 full gas, or am I going 4 out of 5 halfway? You have to decide what your plan was. You can ride the same hill every day if you have the proper gearing, and one day go easy and one day go harder. You have to decide that so you're not sick of those hills. I think you're riding them over geared and you're just pushing the whole time. It's hard to do a long climb at full gas every day. Long climbs are not fun. I told Paulie Longa the other day, I said, I used to do that. We used to go to Colorado to race and so forth. I don't like climbing for 2 hours. That's too long. you know? So yeah, so if you got long climbs and you plan on doing it, get the right gearing, you will have more fun. So then one day you can just learn the climbs by going easier in your lower ratio and keep your cadence above 70. That's why you're blowing. Your legs are being overloaded. Just from that, from as a general standpoint, I don't have the specifics of what you're doing, but that's what it is. Climbs can be fun in the right gear. And so you see, we're riding, we got 4% climbs, whatever. They're okay. But if I'm riding a 53, 17, and I come to a 4% climb, I'm going to the 23 or something like that. I'm going to get the gearing down, kick up my cadence, which will tax my aerobic system, but spare my legs. That's why I made the comment during the premiere that, yeah, we're just riding larger gears because our climbs are only 4, 5, 6%, whatever. We've got a few of those. That's why I seek out a Cimarron. I got 6 to 8%. So on the 8% climb, I'm riding a 39-17 or something like a 62-inch gear, and I'm pushing hard on a 6 to 8% climb. So yeah, your gearing will change. So if you don't have low ratios, then it's time to change the chain ring to compact and then get something back there. That's what the mantra about spinners, winners of spinners and so forth. You will have more fun. Then you won't blow. You're blowing because you're over geared. So C Krula says, yeah, Robert, I'm not a helmet wearer either. You have to die of something. The reason I read that is that's kind of funny. It's like, okay, you have to die. We know that you have to die of something. That's not going to make me step out in front of a truck. So I'm going to hedge my bets. Okay, I'm going to move on. I know what he meant, but I was like, okay. Let's see. Mark Hins with a usual schedule of being 4 days on, 3 days off. How should I maximize my 3 consecutive days of training and things that you do on a work trip? That's too specific. Yeah, I don't know if we have enough time to cover that here. But what I would suggest is that you've got 3 days to ride. You ride 3 days. Now, if you need a plan as to what kind of workouts to do, you can look at some of our plans on veloharmony.com or maybe do our cycling consulting, and we can build you a plan for 3 consecutive workout days. We'll give you something specific depending on your zones, because I don't even know your zones. So, yeah, you need a training plan. That's what this sounds like, and that's very involved. And so you can kind of sign up for one of those services. I think Cycle Warrior actually signed up for the consulting stuff, but you can do that. We have a plan, a thing where you can request a custom training plan to be built for you. And so we'll have you do a threshold test so we get your zones, and that way you can maximize those 3 days, and we can put some workouts together for you. That's kind of what I do for the guys that I coach. Let's see. Let's see. Michael Fernandez, our guys here have flags flying all over their trikes. Yeah, I think that's good because it's high up. The trikes are so low sometimes. These people don't pay attention. You know, the road bike sits up, but I still put a light on my bike. And then you guys know I'm very conscious of the colors I wear and all of that. That's all you can do, man. People just need to be personally responsible. You're going to operate a vehicle, you need to pay attention. That's the attitude I have. I don't cut them any slack. You want to do something else, sit at home. You want to drive. Can't have both of them. You can't have it both ways. Oh, Anthony said it at 4. I thought it was 11. Okay, well, I'll change it. I had put 11. Yeah, 4 o'clock is fine. That works for me too. That's fine. I'll change it. Let me make a note. I'm not sure how I got 11. All right. Wesley Steven, welcome, Super Legend. Greetings. To add to the heart rate comments, I find that glancing periodically at my heart rate helps me monitor my performance and be disciplined and restrained about staying in the training zone I had planned. Yeah, that's all you do. People who have been using it for a while, nobody rides down the road looking at heart rate. There's no point. Some people will set alarms on their head unit. I think the Garmin lets you do that. It comes with it, where you can put an alarm if it goes above a certain heart rate. I don't do that because they will be beeping all the time, because you come to a climb and you're feeling good and you get into the climb, the heart rate will spike, so I don't use it because when I'm riding, I don't want to hear any electronics. There's a guy we ride with. You guys saw Fabian pulling really hard, and Fabian uses the Strava Summit where he can download all the segments, and his head unit just beeps all throughout the ride because every time he comes to a segment, it will let you know, beep to let you know segment coming up, something like that. Then it will beep to say go, and then it will beep when you're done with the segment. But that's what they do to motivate themselves. I just go and I ride, and when I decide I want to go faster for a period of time, I just go. I don't really care where the segments are and so forth. Especially since Strava's kind of slick. They want you to get a Summit membership to download segments to your headset. I'm like, what am I going to do with that? I don't need to be prompted all that time. With the group, I just go hard when they go, which I think that's really cool. That's the nice thing about group. You go hard when they go. If you're feeling good and you want to make a move, you make a move. That's kind of fun. So we're going to have fun with these guys. Let's see here. Audio Technica says, you're definitely right. My priority is my job, and it shouldn't be like that. It's not just you. And I don't think it's intentional. I think the reason is that everybody needs the income from the job to pay for the stuff that we have, our homes, whatever. So yeah, the job's kind of important, but I think we lose sight of the fact that we still have to take care of ourselves because we're the asset. That company that gave you that job, they hired you. So if you're the asset, you have to make sure you are maintained, that you take care of yourself so they can continue to keep paying you. You can't let yourself run down and then you're not able to perform your job. That's what I mean when I say your health should be in front of the job. Because if you're not healthy, you're not used to the job or yourself or your family or whatever. That's all you got to switch. I'm not saying blow the job off. What I'm saying is, if you're not well, take that sick day. Don't call in on a sunny day and say you're sick so you can go hang out on the beach. Take the sick day when you're sick so you can get better. And use your vacation day. You know what I'm talking about. You guys know. I used to work with people that would use their sick days for other purposes other than being sick. And Paulie Longa works with people that will come to work when they're sick and they spread bugs at work because they want to save their sick days for when they're not sick. I will leave it there. All right, let's see here. All right, John Demps. He says, I'm 6 months into road cycling and use SPD cleats. I'm considering switching to SPDL. Is there a performance difference between the two? I guess by SPD cleats, you're talking about the little ones, the tiny mountain bike ones. Shimano kind of confused the issue with the way they name their stuff. I think the SPD SL is the road, the one where you got the yellow, blue. I don't know what the other color. I guess it was red. Anyway, so the wide 3-bolt. Yes, it's a big difference because you got a wider surface area. I think you put down more power, and I think you avoid the hot foot issue. My wife has the little one, and she's never been comfortable with them. She uses them, but she gets hot foot, you know, when she's using it. It's such a small area. A wider platform, you can apply that thing and spread the force over a wider area, better contact patch. That's why I have not invested in any other power meter from the other pedal systems, because I love how wide the Shimano SPD SL is. And when I used to use Look, my feet would just go to sleep because it's smaller. And it's not too much smaller, but it's enough, I guess, to bother me. And with Shimano, I don't have a problem. And this was before they did the SPD SL. Back when I raced, I had a regular Shimano. The cleats have always been wide. And the shoes fit my flat feet. Shimano shoes are just, you know. So, yeah. So, yes, there's a big difference. You will notice a tremendous difference. Those tiny things, it's just not enough. I mean, they're great in those shoes that you can walk in easier, if I've got that right. But, yeah. So, let's see here. Yeah, Jeffrey just answered John also. But yeah, John, you won't go wrong. If you're going to do road, get the wider cleats. The other ones are great because if you're going to be in the trail, walking in the bush, mud, whatever, you can walk easier in those shoes. You know, that's the thing. Even the shoes that Rafa came up with, they came up with a classic shoe and the Explore shoes. If you look at the Explore shoes, they got treads on there, and they have the systems to take the mountain bike type cleats. But I wouldn't do the small SPD. If I were using mountain bike cleats, I'd do the wider one. Shimano makes some wider ones. I think Alan uses that on his road bike as well. Yeah, I like big surfaces because you spread the surface area. You just put down more power. So let's see. So we're done, guys. 102. Let's see. Michael B. I just started cycling. 7 months. John, you're welcome. I just started. John Dem said thanks. Yeah, I hope this helps you, John. But yeah, for road, get the real deal. There's a reason. They're not a fashion statement. We look like ducks walking in them, but on the bike, we might as well be ballerinas. Lots of grace. Michael B says, I just started cycling 7 months ago and have an alloy bike. We all do, man. Alloy is just a mixture of metals. I guess by alloy, you mean non-carbon. Should I upgrade to carbon or keep training on my current bike? I don't know why people consider carbon an upgrade. Your wallet will be downgraded. Nah, keep your bike. If it's working fine, it's working fine. I've owned a carbon bike. There's nothing wrong with them. They're fine. But if there's nothing wrong with your bike, just ride your bike. You don't need to spend more money. It's not going to make you faster. Okay, we've got a lot of guys with fancier bikes than we have that, you know, if they haven't ridden yet, it's the engine that matters. So does that alloy bike fit you? So first thing you need to do is invest in a bike fit. A lot of people ignore that. Get it to fit you. And then get good kit. Since you're new in cycling, check out the channel. Look under the, if you go to the channel page, all the playlists are there. I have the phases of cycling. Phase 1, where you do phase 2. Go through those videos and it will guide you in what you need. Your body is catching all the wind. Make sure your clothes fit you well. Invest in that and invest in the bike fit. Number 1 is bike fit. That bike needs to fit you. So if that alloy bike is the wrong size, then you might want to look into getting a bike that fits you best. Get a bike sizing first so you can know what size to buy. And it doesn't matter whether you go carbon or stick with metal bikes, but whatever you want, I mean, it needs to fit you. That's where I would say you start. Does your bike fit you, and do you have a good kit when you're out there? And of course, I assume you have a helmet to cover your head, and you know. So go to the channel and look at those playlists. I've got all the videos in phases of cycling. Since you're new, that will help you. So hang on to your wallet for now and just focus on what you need to buy first before you start spending money. All right, let's see here. We're going to wrap this up. Daryl Shanks, our super legend. I updated Strava with a few pics Ball Legend of You, the name will be the same. Back. Be at it soon. Yeah. Just heal up, man. Heal up. And the cool thing about cycling is you can get back on the bike on the trainer soon. You know, even with a broken wrist, the trainer will be fine. You know, once your doctor clears you to do that. But that activity on the trainer will help your healing. So good night, everybody. Glad you could make it. Hey, John Bailey. We're wrapping up, John. Welcome. Yeah. Yeah. Michael, you're welcome, man. Don't spend any money. Right now, focus on getting your fit. Go to the channel. Educate yourself. Give yourself the information, then you'll know what to do. Don't fall for the marketing stuff. As long as the bike works, stick with it. And once you get it fitted, then the first thing you want to maybe look into down the road is maybe upgrading the wheels if you want to. But I don't think that you need to buy it. But, you know, it would help down the road to get a second bike so you never miss your training. Down the road, a lot of things like that. So, but we'll talk to you at the other sessions that are coming up. Yeah, usually we're going to be doing this at 4:30 Central Daylight Time every Wednesday for 60 minutes. And that way, I'm going to start putting the thing out 24 hours before. I did it this morning. I'll put it out so it'll be on the channel and it will send a notification to all of you that are subscribed so we can just have this chat. So guys like Michael and them can get tips. But Michael, check out the channel. All that stuff you need to know is there. And the way I've laid it out, it's easy for you to see, because they're in phases of cycling. Okay? I want to thank all of you for being here. You super chatters, we appreciate you. Daryl, you're in our prayers. Get better and stick with it. We're going to ride for you.